Welcome to Facepalm America. I'm Beowulf Franklin. At Facepalm USA is our address on Twitter. Well, the anti-abortion nut jobs are at it again. They struck in Texas. They're about to strike in Idaho. And in Missouri, those pro-life people, those pro-life people who want to stop death, well, in defense of life, they are, in fact, advocating the death penalty. Yes, it's true. A Missouri lawmaker is saying it's possible that the death penalty could be applied under a new law or a potential law for women who get an abortion. States across the country are introducing and passing legislation to limit abortion access. The moves in Republican-majority states follow the passing of a Mississippi law, which is currently making its way to the Supreme Court. And that law has the ability to limit abortion rights across the country by overturning Roe v. Wade. The most recent addition to that list, Missouri. And in Missouri, lawmakers are not only stopping residents from obtaining abortions in the state, that's what they want to do, but also suggesting that those who travel in order to obtain them will also be subject to lawsuits. State Representative Mary Elizabeth Coleman proposed a measure that would make performing an abortion on a Missouri resident or even helping a Missouri resident get one illegal. A similar law passed in Texas, in which citizens were granted the ability to enforce the law through lawsuits. Coleman's measure would target anyone even tangentially involved in an abortion performed on a Missouri resident, including the hotline staffers who make the appointments, the marketing representatives who advertise out-of-state clinics, and the Illinois and Kansas-based doctors who handle the procedure. Gee, I wonder how that will go down with the Supreme Court, the supposedly states' rights-oriented Supreme Court. I'm going to imagine that all of a sudden states' rights aren't going to matter very much when it comes to the nut jobbery of a state like Missouri. The states' rights of Illinois, or another state where they might go, like Kansas, in order to seek an abortion or other kinds of reproductive care. This is just an incredible, destructive attack on women. It's a rising tide of evil across our country and indeed across the world, because it's happening in places like Poland as well. This is a rising tide of ill. Make no mistake about it. So, the people who make the appointments, the amendment would also make it illegal to manufacture, transport, possess, or distribute abortion pills in Missouri. Because the state has ended most surgical abortions, many women are traveling to Kansas or Illinois to seek care. Additionally, while the state has a ban on abortion after 8 weeks, the state cannot enforce the ban while a legal challenge to the restriction makes its way through federal court. Coleman hopes abortion ends not just in Missouri, but throughout the entire country. Of course she does, because she wants women to have no power. But another GOP lawmaker in Missouri says there should be drastic penalties planned for those who have or help others with abortions. During the debate for his bill that would make it a felony offense to transport or make available abortion-inducing devices or drugs in Missouri, State Representative Brian Seitz not only advocated for prison time for those in favor of abortion, but mentioned the death penalty. Seitz noted that he felt his proposal was not strict enough, and he would leave the conversation on the death penalty open in regard to implementing that for the people facilitating abortions. So give a listen to what he actually says here. It's very interesting. He's being asked a question by another lawmaker in a committee. And here's what he has to say.
And I think that penalty is probably not even strict enough.
And so you'd even go as far as offering the death penalty as a solution?
We'll have to look at that in other legislation.
Let's look at that. Let's look at the death penalty. Let's look at the death penalty for abortion, because we're pro-life. A pro-life Republican lawmaker advocating, or at least leaving open the possibility, of the death penalty for women who want an abortion in their state. I have a recording, by the way, of a few members of the Republican caucus in the state of Missouri, in the state legislature. They're really riled up. They're worked up about this. And you should be too. Because this is not about anything except controlling women and controlling their bodies and using a political wedge issue in order to disempower women, empower men, and distract you from the core economic problems in this nation. This is evil. It's a distraction, and it should be dispatched. This law should get the death penalty. You know, in just a moment, we're going to go to something lighter, because there's a lot of heavy stuff in the news. Again, I'm not going to offer anything at the moment on Ukraine. I know the situation is terrible there. Hopefully it will get better. Hopefully it doesn't devolve into World War III. And hopefully the Ukrainians get their country back. But there are lighter things in the news than death, war, destruction, and evil right-wingers. And we will be back with one or two of those in a moment. Facepalm America, and goodness knows North Carolina has its issues, and apparently one of them is free speech on license plates. I mean, we know that there are a lot of right-wingers in North Carolina. A lot of good folks, too. They have a Democratic governor. It's not a given that that's a good thing, of course. Not by a long shot. But there does seem to be a problem with free speech. We can't talk about farts, apparently, in North Carolina. And it's very strange, because a woman from that state has been fighting to be allowed to keep her license plate, which says fart. She's been engaged in a battle with the Division of Motor Vehicles, and she was told that she can keep the plate, but she just can't put it on her car. Okay, why not? Let's find out. Carly Cindy of Asheville, North Carolina, which I have heard is a beautiful town, by the way, said she originally applied for her fart vanity plate as a joke and was surprised that she actually got the requested plate in the mail. Sydney later received a letter from the DMV saying the plate had been issued in error, as fart is among the letter and number combinations banned by the state. Farts are banned in North Carolina. Banning abortions in Missouri, and they're banning farts in North Carolina. What the hell kind of a country do we live in? So this is actually, this is not about bodily functions, actually. This has nothing to do with bodily functions. Because Cindy, Carly Cindy, is a part of a group called the Friends of Asheville Recreational Trails. It's a nature group. Friends of Asheville Recreational Trails, or FART. I don't know whether that confluence of letters was accidental or intentional, but there it is. That's the name of the group. And she thought officials would let her keep the plate, and they will let her keep the plate, but they won't let her have that be the license on her car, because God knows we can't talk about farts. We cannot talk about farts in North Carolina. North Carolina is not somewhere where the word fart in the year 2022, we cannot talk about farts. It's not appropriate for a license plate. It's not something that we're allowed to do. This is going to offend some portion of the electorate, and it cannot be allowed. FART held an event on Sunday, and more than a dozen people showed up to Richmond Hill Park in Asheville, North Carolina, in celebration of the saga of Carly Cindy's license plate. She says she plans to continue hosting FART events, even though the saga of her license plate has ended. This is ridiculous. I think if there's nothing else that that people on the left, anyone sensible, and even the far-right nut jobs in the current strain of the GOP can agree on, it's that we should be able to talk about farts. I mean, what the hell is wrong with that? I call upon North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper to call a special legislative session to pass legislation quickly to allow drivers in North Carolina to have whatever fart-related messages that they can fit on their license plate that they want. This is a First Amendment issue. I mean, have you looked at TV or the internet recently? I mean, farts are not high up the obscenity scale, let me tell you. Not to mention the fact that there are just obscene, ridiculous things in so many other more critical places that we should consider obscene. Gas prices, for example. Gas prices are thoroughly obscene at the moment. You may have noticed this. You may have filled your tank in the last couple of weeks and noticed, that's $1 or $2 higher than it used to be. How come? What happened? You may be asking yourself. Your wallet may be a little emptier than it usually is. And the explanation so often given is, well, the Russia and the thing and inflation and we can't help it. And in the meantime, these companies continue to make record profits. So it's not about Russia. It's not about inflation. It's about extracting money from you. It's about taking money from you by any means necessary. Because ultimately, for their own purposes, these hyper-capitalists have become devotees of Malcolm X. Money by any means necessary. It's just a little tweak, The radicals. They're extremists. Extreme capitalism. On the Extreme Channel. Every day. At your local gas station. I mean, it's really ridiculous. Not everybody can afford to pay these prices. And it's going to crush some people. It's going to crush their lives. But the proverbial hyper-capitalist honey badger do not care. Someone's making a stink about it, though, fortunately. AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, has taken aim at corporate profiteers, in addition to a couple of other good folks in Congress whose names I will mention. It's not just all AOC. Gas prices averaging, I shouldn't even say the number because it'll be higher by the time you listen to this. There's a lot of profiteering going on, AOC says, and there should be consequences for it. Representative Ilhan Omar of Minnesota has said the same thing. She tweeted that big oil CEOs need to be held accountable for their profiteering. And last week, Democratic Senator from Rhode Island, Sheldon Whitehouse, introduced the big oil windfall profits tax to target fossil fuel companies profiteering amid Russian President Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine. It's co-sponsored by Jeff Merkley, from Oregon, my state, Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, and Ro Khanna on the House side simultaneously introduced a House version of that bill. Now, that'll pass the House, but do you think Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema are going to let it pass the Senate? Do you think a single Republican thinks that gas prices are too high if they're in the pay of the fossil fuel industry? No, of course not. So it's not going to become law because just enough people in the U.S. Senate are bought off. Just enough people in the U.S. Senate have taken just enough bribes to make sure it won't pass. They've been working on this for years. They're ready for you. They've built their walls, and they're just going to gouge you. And unless something else bigger is done, unless you get out there and make a big stink out of it, then it's going to keep happening. It's going to keep happening until we do something about it. Last week, Common Dreams, that's a great site, by the way, commondreams.org, reported that 82% of respondents to a survey conducted by the advocacy group Fight Corporate Monopolies believe that inflation, which recently reached a 40-year high, is fueled by corporations hiking prices in pursuit of profit. Or do you think Putin? Yeah, it's just him. Putin's raising prices. Guess again. All right, we need to take another quick break, but we will be back in a moment with news of the military-industrial complex. This is Facepalm America. Yes, it's news of the military-industrial complex now, because we spend a whole lot of money on the military, most particularly weapons, military equipment, military devices. They're kind of expensive. I mean, 30 years ago, it was funny to talk about a $300 toilet seat that the Pentagon bought. But it's gone light years beyond that now. We spend billions and billions and billions of dollars on a single plane. And one of those planes is the F-15. And a funny thing happened to a pilot in an F-15 the other day, a U.S. fighter jet flying over the UK. The pilot had to aggressively swing to the left. Even further than this podcast. I know that's amazing. But it had to aggressively swing to the left. When they spotted, about 50 feet away, a large balloon. A balloon. They spotted it visually. while nearly 4 miles above ground. The aviator reported the risk of collision had been high, according to the UK Airprox Board, which works to enhance air safety in Britain. The report on the incident, which happened off the coast of East Riding of Yorkshire on November 5th last year, states the F-15 pilot reports they saw a large balloon bloom in the head-up display at 21,000 feet. Now, it's unusual, I will grant you. And maybe, who knows, maybe there is something that I'm not thinking of. Maybe an encounter with a balloon would cause at that elevation some damage that is just not occurring to me. I'm a layperson. I don't understand your strange high elevation ways. But on the face of it, you got to admit that you'd think in almost any encounter between an F-15 fighter jet and a balloon, even a very large balloon, the F-15 is going to win. And you wouldn't really think that you would need to dodge that. I mean, I would. Maybe he didn't think it was a balloon at first. Maybe he thought it was some foreign object and he didn't know what it was. That's not what this article says, though. It's from the Daily Mail, so God knows whether to trust something like this or not. But it seems to indicate that the pilot, he or she knew that it was a balloon right from the get-go and took evasive maneuvers to avoid hitting a balloon. Again, maybe there's something I'm missing here. Maybe if you want to tweet at us at FacePalmUSA and tell me why it would be a very, very bad thing for an F-15 fighter to hit a balloon, I am ready to be corrected. I'm waiting to be told. In the board's opinion, this is from the report. The reported altitude or description of the object were sufficient to indicate that it was probably a balloon. The twin-engine, all-weather tactical fighter jet has a wingspan of, say that right, please, a wingspan of 42.8 feet, is 63.8 feet long, and weighs 31,700 pounds. It can reach speeds of 1,875 miles per hour, but apparently it can't hit a balloon. That would be a very bad thing. The board considered that the pilot's overall account of the incident portrayed a situation where safety had been much reduced below the norm to the extent that safety had not been assured. And they gave the incident a risk rating of B, its second most serious rating on a scale from A to E. Geez. I mean, a balloon is like the second highest rating. Wow, that's God. What is the lowest rating? I mean, just pilots in a bad mood. I don't know. That would probably be more dangerous, frankly. Last week, it was reported that 2 F-15s from RAF Lakenheath in Suffolk, also in the UK, were forced to make emergency landings at the base. The U.S. Air Force confirmed, however, they did not confirm whether those were balloon-related incidents. Something going on with the F-15. If it can't hit a balloon, boy, what have we been spending all those trillions of dollars on at the Pentagon for all of these years? Maybe just making military contractors rich? Could that be? Could that possibly be? Could it be that we don't really have very good military hardware? And this is just about funneling money to already very rich people? Could that possibly be? Nah, couldn't be. Couldn't be a thing. All I know is that the words that were heard over the radio as the F-15 took evasive maneuvers were this.
It is balloon!
Yes. A direct quote. You know, we get great actualities on Facepalm America. That is, unfortunately, all the time that we have for today. I want to thank you for being here. I want you to come back, of course. I want to thank you for listening and being a part of this program. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts, give us a rating, a 5-star rating ideally. Review us. You can listen to us in so many different places. Pass it along to your friends. Say nice things about us. And until next time, this is Beowulf Rockland. This is Facepalm America. We shall return.
Hey there, fellow working class heroes. I'm Rick Smith, host of The Rick Smith Show. Are you tired of the corporate-controlled media ignoring the needs of we the people? You know, the people who actually do the work? Are you tired of the platitudes that they throw at us? Remember when they called us patriotic, frontline heroes, essential, only to find out that they've lined their pockets with the fruits of our sacrifice and labor? Had enough? It's time to come together, organize, and unite. Join us at The Rick Smith Show daily by downloading the podcast each and every day. Subscribe so you never miss a minute. The Rick Smith Show podcast is found wherever you get your podcasts, from iTunes to iHeart, Stitcher to Podbean, and beyond. Go to thericksmithshow.com for more information on how you can get the podcast each and every day. The Rick Smith Show, where working people come to talk.